at the party conference in Bulawayo, and it says that the president should remain as president of ZANU-PF until 2030. There has been a lot of flake coming out of, and some noises coming out about this resolution, because it is the unanimous resolution of the party membership, and nobody during that party conference challenged that resolution. So it was adopted unanimously by the party membership. So we expect that anybody who is a party member and is a follower of ZANU-PF will comply with the resolutions of the party as expounded by the majority. Of course, the president says that he will not go beyond 2028. That is the position of the president. And it is right as the leader to say I can continue or not to continue. That is it may. The date 28 remains on the calendar of God. It is not being removed. So a lot of the issues about where the party will be decided by 2028. And we are also going for a conference, a congress of the party which comes after every 5 years. It's coming in 2027. So the decision of the president will then determine which way we are going to be proceeding as a party. But the position of the party is clear in their preference. What is amiss is for anyone within the party to say that because the president said we are not going beyond 2028, therefore I declare myself a candidate for succession before that particular date. If you are doing that, you are going against the spirit of the resolution of the majority of the party at the party conference in Mutare. You are declaring yourself a candidate ahead of the party itself having announced the availability of a vacant post for that particular job. Because within ZANU-PF, we do things according to our structure, according to our constitution, according to our organs. Aspiration to succeed the president is not the prerogative of anybody or any particular individual to say, because I have an ambition, therefore I'm the only one. It doesn't work like that. The fact that you have an ambition does not make you then the only one who then says, I'm the candidate. Because there have been voices coming from, subliminal voices, coming out hinting at the fact that I am the one who should succeed the president. I am the one who should take over. And those voices are wrong. Because the ambition exists in every politician. Every politician has got ambition. What ZANU-PF does is to give an opportunity for that ambition to be exercised within the constitutional tenets of the party, within the historical traditions of the party. And that ambition can exist in all the membership. It can exist in the majority of the membership of the party. It can exist in all provinces. It can exist in all organs, that ambition. Because anyone who joins politics, you have an aspiration to rise and to become a leader if you join politics. So if some people run ahead of everybody, then declare the answer to their ambition, and when they then answer to their ambition, they want to declare themselves as the natural successors. That is wrong, because it is not according to the constitution of the party. So what I would advise those who have got ambition as the spokesperson for the party is to keep the ambition within their hearts, like all the other members of the party who may also aspire to that job. Keep your ambition inside your heart. The time shall come when there will be a calling for people with ambition to come forward and declare their candidates according to the tenets and constitution of the party. And you must be ready to compete against anybody and anyone else who may aspire to want to succeed the president. Don't think that simply by declaring your ambition ahead of that of the others, you are now entitled to become the successor to the president. Having an ambition is no provision in the constitution to be the basis upon which you can succeed the president. I repeat, having an ambition is not the basis of a constitutional sanction for you to succeed the president. Anybody else who may have an ambition can succeed the president when the time comes, when the constitution calls for that, and when the structures of the party calls for that. This is very important so that people should hold their horses. Anybody else who may have ambition, hold your horse until the referee whistles out or the gun goes out, that the race is on. Then you start running at that particular time. For the time being, we have one leader. It's President E.D. Mnangagwa. You rally behind him. He is the leader for the time being. The fact that you may have ambition does not then legitimize you to become a candidate, to become a successor of him. Having an ambition is not the basis of becoming a successor to the president, because ambition is found everywhere in every politician. There's no particular attribute about your ambition which may not exist in the ambition of another who may be quiet about that particular issue. This is very important. And the mere fact that the president says, I am not going beyond 2028, does not entitle another person to simply say, because I am not going to 28, I am going to be your successor. No. The successor is done according to the constitution of the party, according to the wishes of the organs of the party, according to the direction of the provincial, of the world membership of the party. They are the ones who do that. We are a different party. We cannot have everybody everywhere saying, I want this, I want that, I want that. So this is very important. I am ready to entertain any questions about this matter from the fourth estate. But the clarity is that just because you have an ambition and then you go public about it, it does not make you the sole person to succeed the president. Having an ambition is not the basis upon which you can succeed the president. Only when the processes of the party have been discharged can then that ambition be husbanded to make it compete with any other ambitions which may be existing from within the membership. It's an open race. It's a democratic party. It's an open race. If there's one among the members of the fourth estate who may also want to be an ambition to the president, is a member of ZANU PF. Don't feel intimidated because paneva muatanga kumanya kuti uzviti vakati. No. Feel free to say that when the time comes, just guard your ambition within you, so that when the time comes, you declare it and you join the race and you get sifted through by the electorate of the party. Then, if you are lucky, you may become the successor to the president. It's an open race. I say one. Because there's this perception here, because I'm shouting from the rooftop that I'm there. Shouting from the rooftop about your ambition does not make you the sole person who may want to succeed the president. There are many others who may harbor that ambition, but they are waiting patiently for the time when the race will be declared and the constitution will kick in, and then you can become a candidate who is considered by the electorate of ZANU PF. This is what the president said. He says, I do not anoint successors. I will let the party decide who will take over from me. He said that in his own words. He hasn't revisited that position since Mutare. He hasn't revisited that position. So there's a new position. There's no new position about who will succeed the president other than the fact that he says, when the time comes, I will ask the party to choose who will be my successor. Remember, I'll ask the party membership to choose who will be my successor. Saka kumira uchita handibviri ndini chete, it does not make you the only one who can become the candidate for succession. No, there may be many others. Having finished with the conference, the president has gone back to what he knows best, which is to continue to manage the Zimbabwean economy in such a manner that it delivers on the singular most important assignment of ZANU-PF. The compact of ZANU-PF with the people of Zimbabwe, with the people of Zimbabwe, is that we will deliver prosperity to this country. And for 6 decades, we suffered, we sacrificed, because we wanted a Zimbabwe which can give opportunities for Zimbabweans to develop themselves on the global stage, so that they can realize, they self-actualize as to who they are as Zimbabwean, as global citizens. So the compact of ZANU-PF with the people of Zimbabwe, the compact of ZANU-PF with those who died, is one. Can you deliver prosperity to the people of Zimbabwe? Because people die for the prospect of prosperity. My life, it does not matter if I die, if my country will become prosperous. Because we're being denied the opportunities to self-actualize, to realize ourselves as a people because of the colonial subjugation, because of colonial or imperial conquest, because of racial minority rule, because of central control of our economy. So there were no opportunities for Zimbabweans. That's why they went to war. That's why they said, my life doesn't matter as long as eventually Zimbabwe will be a prosperous country. So the volition of the president is to deliver prosperity to Zimbabwe. And he has gone back to that assignment. And the beauty about it is that the president continues to deliver on an unprecedented level the best prospects for Zimbabwe's prosperity. Last week, he was hosting Africa's top businessman, Aliko Dangote, who has been, in the past, miffed by the idea of investing in Zimbabwe for all sorts of reasons. This time he came to see our president, he left a very smiling man. Because what the president has done is to say Zimbabwe is open for business and to open the country to enterprising capital from everywhere, of which, if it can be African capital, it's even much better, because it means African resources are being exploited by Africans for the benefit of Africa. But it's not only the African billionaires who are coming to the president. There are other billionaires from other countries. Actually now State House is now the stomping ground of billionaires from all over the world, because Zimbabwe has created conditions whereby people with enterprising money can come to this country, apply it to our resources. We have our very, very competent, educated and skillable labor force work on it and turn capital into profit at a rate which is probably the highest in Africa. When you put your money into Zimbabwe, your funds in Zimbabwe, they become profit in the shortest possible time. So word has gone around globally that the person who will make your money make returns in the shortest period of time is in Africa, and the country is called Zimbabwe, and the leader is Emmerson Mnangagwa. So I get surprised by someone from the opposition detractors who somehow don't see what the billionaires are seeing. Anabiti, Mawarire, and everybody else talking about what Zimbabwe, Haiti, there is corruption, there is no. The evidence is there, and the trooping of the billionaires from all over the world to Zimbabwe, Vanemari, is the clearest sign that the economic policies of the president are delivering on the prospects of prosperity by attracting the best possible businessmen within the country and outside of the country. Saga, if the businessmen who have money are voting for the president with their feet, who are you, BT, or anybody else to say otherwise when you have no cent in your pocket to invest? You have empty pockets to invest. You are talking about the criteria of how investments should be done. The one who has got funds in his pocket is the one who is coming to Zimbabwe. You are disparaging that venture by that person, and you are substituting it for your empty pretensions about knowing how capital behaves. No. Tinoteedza vane mari yacho ndo vatinoteerera. Haikona vanhu vanongosimuka vane homwe dzisina chinhu chekuinvesta. I mean, they've been here for donkey ages. Anabit mangofani kuonewa muwe vese hamuna kana one chamakamboinvesta in your life. Asi muda kujaja vanhu vari kuunza mari munyika. It's not only people from outside who are coming. Just yesterday, the president was opening up a plant, ultra modern, by Radland. He's a Zimbabwean, by the way. He has put $100 million into a plant which beneficiates our tobacco. If he is seeing the prospects of prosperity and pumping his money into a project of that nature in this country, it is Zimbabwe. Who are you then? You was not gonna send him home kutaura kuti hanzi munangagwa nyika yaendeswa, the country has gone to the dogs. Which dogs? The dogs are cows in this instance. The dogs are cows because, you know, vane mari vari kuenda kunokama mukaka kumombe idzodzo ana Radland. They are doing it. He's not the only one. You know, you saw the investments in Bulawayo, you know, by Insco. You know, it's all over the shore. Zimbabweans are putting their money back into their country. You see the construction which is going on all over the country by Zimbabweans, even at lower levels of society, of funding. The diaspora money is all pouring back. They are now the third largest investor, source of foreign currency after tobacco and gold. This is the diaspora voting with its own money into this economy because of any confidence in a president. Ivo vese vauri kuti marema mapenzi iwe biti nana Jairus Mawarire ndimi munozviti munoziya ana hope chimono. No, the president is doing a fantastic job about this economy, and even an institution which was once hostile to Zimbabwe, the IMF, now acknowledges our economy is going to be growing by 6.6% per annum. This is from the IMF from Washington. These are world-class economists who may not have been friends of Zimbabwe before. They are saying Zimbabwe is doing well. As pane vamwe vanhu vari muno vanongoda kungonyebera vanhu hanzi we want to have an uprising. Hey, toda kuti vanhu mudemonstrate. Hey, toda kuti muzomboti chi. Hey, vanhu havana chekudya. I mean, a country where everybody has got a US dollar in his pocket. According to the World Bank, an African who has a dollar a day in his pocket can survive from hunger. Muno Zimbabwe, 80% of our currency in circulation is US dollars. I know you are not rich, but muna my US dollars and they are earned by you. They are not a gift from the American government, because remember the US dollar is from the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. That's where the US dollar comes from. America does not give US dollars to its own citizens in New York. They work for it. So if you got a US dollar in America, you've worked for it. Now, in Zimbabwe, there are people with US dollars from America. There's no way you can be given that money for free by America because you are Zimbabwean. So having it in your own pocket means you've worked for it. You understand? Having it, you know. So this is a hard-working country which earns US dollars, the most difficult currency on earth. The president has banalized that country and made it available to every Zimbabwean, to the point where 80% of the currency in circulation is US dollars. It leaves New York for the world market. It goes to Dubai. We sell gold. It ends up in Zimbabwe. So the serial number registers not from Dubai. It is registered from Zimbabwe. Not because America has been generous to Zimbabwe, but because Zimbabweans have worked upon it. This is a very important criteria for you to understand. When I say that the president has done something unprecedented, this is a country which had no currency after 2008. Definitely when he came into power, we had no currency. Now we have a currency, the ZIG. But not only have a currency, the beauty about it is that currency is strengthening against the US dollar, because Zimbabweans are digging gold. They are producing tobacco. They are having a hard-working diaspora. So our current account as a country in US dollars is black. Atina chikwereti chekuti ukati toda ma-US dollars nhasi today unoashaya in our system. The current account is operating in black. The only challenge we have is the legacy debt. That's why money is still in pillows. US dollars are still in mattresses or in pillows. That's why US dollars are still in safe houses. That's why US dollars are in nostro accounts, because people are afraid that the historical debt may take away the value out of my US dollars if they are liquidated. So we have to find a way to make sure that we address the historical debt so that people have confidence, absolute confidence, and all that money will come out of nostro accounts. It will come out of people's mattresses and safety boxes. So we probably have another $4 billion US dollars, not in circulation, in material, Zimbabwe. So kanyika kanaka nevanhu vakati ngwarei vanosenza zvemandiriri vari kutongwa napresident anogona, vari kutungamirirwa nepati isingabviri kuti zvese zviitike izvozvo. That's why we are where we are today. I am emphasizing this point because we have to understand why Zimbabweans have had so much confidence in ZANU-PF. The can-do spirit yemaZimbabweans yekuti tinogona yadzoka nenzira yapresident. You know, we had that can-do spirit when we won against the British in 1980. It was military, it was political. With the Second Republic in the last 4 years, 5 years, the president has restored the can-do spirit in economic activity. Taakufira kuti tiri shangwiti, tiri shasha pachedu as Zimbabweans. This is what the president has done, to restore the confidence of Zimbabweans in themselves. Because among the Africans, we are a very, very risk-averse but enterprising people. We do things in our own way, and we make Africa proud. And that's what the president has done. So a man who is doing that kind of job, the electorate, the membership of ZANU-PF says, Rambai muri pabasa, President, keep on the job, because we are doing a good job. They are saying there's nothing which is broken about how you are leading this country. The car is not broken. Drive high, President Mutgari, because the car is not broken. Why do you want to fix it if it is not broken? Let it go ahead. That's what the membership of ZANU-PF does. So anything beyond that, they are actually working against the spirit of the membership of ZANU-PF. We are very happy. Our Vice President, Comrade Chiwenga, is leaving today. He is going to the G20. The G20 is being hosted by our neighboring country, South Africa. And 3 weeks ago, they invited the Minister of Small to Medium Enterprises to South Africa. This is our neighbor. This is the most powerful economy on the African continent. It is so confident about how Zimbabweans are running their affairs that when they have a jamboree of leaders from all over the world, they say, Zimbabweans, we are titemuonerana pamwechete sevavakidzana. We welcome the NC leadership, President Cyril Ramaphosa, for extending this invitation to the Zimbabwean ministers, to the particular minister in this instance, Mutsvangwa, the Minister of Small to Medium Enterprises. She was there with the G20 3 weeks. And today, as the G20 drives into the summit, our Vice President is also in South Africa. We are very, very happy to be associated. We wish South Africa all the best to host that summit. It's a matter of regret that President Trump says he will not be going to South Africa. We still hope that the relations between South Africa and China will come, and South Africa and America will come back to an even keel, because America is a superpower. It's the largest economy in the world. It plays an important part even in regional investments. So we feel uneasy when Pretoria and Washington, Tshwane and Washington are not on talking terms. We would want that relationship to come back. We have been a victim of American sanctions for so long. We know the pain of being on the wrong side of the major economy of the world. We don't want that pain to be visited upon South Africa. But by the same token, we also expect America to be gracious to the South African people, to the South African president, to the liberation movement, because it seems to be like there's an attitude, a historical carryover of the antipathy to the liberation movement of Southern Africa within certain American political circles. We want America to come of age and to come to the reality that the national liberation movement is there to stay. It is the present, it is the past, it is the present, and it is the future of Southern Africa, the national liberation movement. And we hope America will come to terms. We are happy with the way they are investing in Mozambique, in the gas fields of Mozambique. That's $4.7 billion US from America. This is good. You know, whatever Mozambique gets in investment, it has got a spillover. And tomorrow, our president is leaving for Mozambique. He has already sent his ministers ahead for a bilateral commission between Zimbabwe and Mozambique. This is a relationship which has come back in a very big way. You may want to know that now, the biggest exit of exports to the world is no longer Beit Bridge. It is Forbes border post. This has not happened for 6 decades. That the gateway through Mutare to Beira, which is the cheapest and fastest gateway to the global market, has been dysfunctional since 1965, when UDI was declared and sanctions were imposed by the United Nations against Rhodesia. There were British naval vessels patrolling the Indian Ocean around Beira, stopping Beira from being used for trade because the Rhodesians had declared unilateral independence against the wishes of the world and the United Nations. Then thereafter, there was the war in 1975, which came in big in Mozambique when Frelimo took over and decided to support ZANU from Mozambique. So the border was effectively closed. And then afterwards, we had Renamo after independence, sabotaging our exit. So there was no investment which could be put in the development of railways and ports to Beira. So we were forced to go all the way to Durban, 2,000 kilometers away, for our trade. You can imagine a container leaves New York or to Shanghai, 800, 1,000 US dollars to Durban. You ship it to Harare, 4,000 US dollars. This is a very big inflation index against our economy. And that money was being put into the coffers of South Africa. But now, with what the Second Republic has done, President Mnangagwa has done in the last 7 years, the fortunes of Zimbabwe and Mozambique have been turned around dramatically. We have gone back to the monomotapas of the past when we were using the ports of Mozambique for global trade. There's a town called Chibwene outside of Vilanculos in Mozambique. You see a great Zimbabwe there built, but there's no stone, granite in that area. It came from the interior, by the Save River. So we were the owners of those ports as Mozambique and Zimbabwe were one at that particular time, in that period. That's why we became prosperous to build all these citadels, trading in the Indian Ocean. So now the Indian Ocean is back as our exit to global trade, not the Atlantic Ocean and the slave trade, but the Indian Ocean, facing the great populous nations of Asia, India, China, ASEAN, China for 1.4 billion, India 1.4 billion, ASEAN 700 million. So we are back to Beira. So the prosperity of Beira and Mutare is only the beginning. It has been restored by the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa. So now Beit Bridge has been eclipsed by Forbes border post as our main gateway of trade. By the way, Mutare is only 300 kilometers from Beira. You understand? So this is good for our economy. It reduces the cost of doing business. There is now even a regular boat every month from China to Beira. It comes from a port in Zhejiang, China, called Jiaxing. So we now have a regular boat coming to Beira, becoming and blacklisting other Africans. No. Or for that matter, any other nationality. Atina nationality, atinoda kuti iri deakati iya. It's not African. It's not Zimbabwean. It's not ZANU PF. It's not the revolutionary traditions of a party which sends its kids in the 1960s and 70s all over the world to train how to become guerrilla freedom fighters. We went all over the world to learn to become ZANU forces and Zipra forces. Saka wakuti the world yakatidzidzisa ibenzi. This is special. No. We don't treat things. We don't do things like that. I hope that way that has gone to those who are, that if they don't know, vasingazive ngavadzidziswe. Kunodzidziswa ndekupi kuchitepo college. It doesn't matter who you are, and incidentally we've made a decision here kuti even politburo ichaendeswa kuchitepo college. Kumbonodzidza kubika pfungwa, even uri politburo, even uri central committee. I hope some of these people who shout loudest about certain policies which they have not cleared with the president of the party will now have the discipline to constrain, and if they want to speak at a rally, they must consult the president. Kuti zvandiri kunotaura zvinowirirana nepfungwa dzenyu here. Hauna chako chaunongonotaura parara apo chisina kukiiwa napresident. Aiwa zvinobva kuna president. This is very important because we want to set it a record as a pan-Africanist, globalist, internationalist party. ZANU-PF. It's a revolutionary party. And these attributes which I have told you, pan-African, globalist, internationalist, they define who ZANU-PF is for the past 60 years. They will determine what ZANU-PF is for the next 60 years of its existence. And if you don't understand them, go to the party school and understand, so that we speak the same language as a party. And the same language originates from one person. Central direction is the president. That's what I wanted to say. I will entertain additional questions. Created the value chain all the way kubvira kumunda. President vabvira kumunda. Ndakutaura kuti there was no currency. He has brought back the currency.